Hey everyone, sorry for that. I'm going to build some brown sand in a box, 2 circuit boards. I don't think anyone's going to be online to watch this, by the way. It's like 10 a.m. Friday, very cold Melbourne autumn morning. It's actually pretty chilly. But yeah, I should smash through these pretty quick. I haven't done any videos for a while. I've got everything set out in front of me, so I should be able to get into that pretty quickly. Alright, I'm going to start with these DC sockets, and I'm trying to get through this pretty quickly. Not just so that I'm working fast, but so it's not so boring for you. I'm going to do 2 as well. I figure that should last on the GoPro battery. So I'm tightening that up. I'm trying to get the nut going straight up and down almost, so there's room for the jack later. It's a pretty tight fit. This is a 13mm drill hole, not the 12.5mm size socket. It's a higher quality. There's a little bit of slack in it because I know my drill bit is getting a bit old. It's done, thousands of pedals. After that, I'll probably do foot switch. People are coming online who don't have anything to do, maybe. Hey guys, check them out. I'm gonna save these little washers, they come in handy later. Now for the hardware, I've got a box. Little grab box. Star serrated washers for the jacks. Double size nuts for the foot switch. Little flat washers for them. And for the jacks later, 1, 2, 3, 4 nuts and washers for the switch graft. 1, 2, 3, 4. Forgive me, I can't out loud. I need 2 little 0 ohm resistors for the. This will carry earth to the foot switch for purposes of turning on the LED and for muting the input when it's in bypass. So I was grabbing the little star serrated washer that comes supplied with the foot switches. Because someone's watching me, I made a mess of this. Giving it a few twirls around. Don't overdo it because you can actually snap the wire like that. If you keep going, at least there's no need to compromise it. Give it a few twists, and then at the last bit I'm just doing a little nib. Now, I know if I count about 3 threads visible, just mean pay attention, work out what works for you. But consistency, this one I've got just about 3 threads, see how that goes. Might be 3 or 2.5. And you can always adjust next time as long as you're paying attention. Now the ID of this washer, the inner diameter, isn't exact, so sometimes I have to sort of nudge it around. It's never perfect, but just do the best that I can. I'm trying to grab this switch on the inside to stop it spinning. That's pretty good. I don't like to arc down too many. And I'm trying to make that in a symmetrical way. And those 3 thread, that's pretty good. Sometimes even if you got powder thickness or if you got plates, or they're all different. Some enclosures very slightly different thicknesses when you go up to the bigger ones. Again, I'm trying to count about 3. It's good, I'm running pretty jived. I've just had caffeine and that's it this morning, so. If I'm a bit shaky. Don't sell very many of these, and it is probably one of the easiest of my pedals to build, so it should be pretty quick because the prep work's done, the box is done, circuit boards are done. Let's try to... Sometimes things look asymmetrical and you got to like change the lighting up, and it's very difficult to see. Alright, probably turn the iron on, get my side cutters out and get started. Get my little bin box here. I don't like to cut things until I'm ready to solder them because there's a small chance you can cut something, forget it, not solder it, and it still gets through. So I've got a sort of procedure for when I time things. Let's do the other one. I'll probably just work on one box at a time, just to stop double handling. If you're doing a lot of pedals though, you know, it gets boring, so just do whatever works for you. I'm only doing 2, and I'm not that busy this morning, hence doing a video, so I think I'll chop off about that much. Could have been a bit much. Find out. I'm stripping the insulation without a stripper. I'm pretty happy to just do that, get the tension right. Maybe some people are cringing, but it works. I'm not running the extractor this morning just so that you can hear me better. I think I'm cutting off about 1/4. Again, I'm just being mindful, so next time I can consistently repeat, but I'm thinking out loud. How much was that? Maybe 1/4, 1/3, somewhere between. Okay, they're prepped. Somebody's at the front door. This will be the bypass link to connect the input straight to the output when the effect isn't engaged. You pull a little kink there, pull it through, pull it over, cut off the excess. Didn't expect people to be online this morning, but that's cool. Hi everybody. Why not? I'll swap, I'll do that one. So I'll do the same thing. Again, shouldn't be too long of a video. Put a little kink in there and try and pull it through to the kink. This is all recycled wire, of course, I just chuck them. Yep. Al Gibson, hey mate, how we going? I saw you on before, like, people are allowed to talk to me. Alright, at this point, I will chuck on the output jack. Because that's going to hold the battery connector underneath it, sort of. I like to put this on first, just in case I put the battery connector in, then like squish the output jack in, so I just know there's a bit of room. Old habit. And that gives just the right amount of tension with that socket. And these are one of the easier pedals of mine because it's just raw aluminium, so it's got like a really, like it reminds me of like a DIY feel. This was one of the first pedals I was do-it-yourself building, and I really liked Moulon and raw aluminiums back then. They're just so durable, like you can't screw that up. I mean, or if it ages, it's going to age consistently. It's not going to chip. Anyway, I just like to twist these. Sort of holds it together, but you don't have to put any cable ties or heat shrink. Don't like to waste plastic or materials. So much waste in building this. Everything comes like packaged in plastic and bubble wrapped and double bagged, and oh my god. I'll send you a plastic case to make sure that the plastic knob you get. So I'm using one finger just to hold that flat. Anyway, this is the battery connector. The negative will be common, always connected, and the positive switches depending on whether or not a jack's plugged in or not. So just twisting that back, give it a tension. What I'm going to do is sort of try and put it in its final resting place. So when I do solder that last bit, that's going to try and hold a sort of form. And yeah, I guess I'll do the other one. You can watch the same thing again. I'm doing them one twist at a time so I can sort of get the tension with my fingers even-ish, rather than just holding each end, and just find it works better. Like negative, push it into the channel. I'm pulling it away just so that the insulation of the red wire is not trying to push up into the little terminal there and then melt. And tuck that in. Good enough. Now, I should have some prepped wires. It's for the earth jack later. That is foot switch. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, now that the battery connector's in, I like to put this little link in. I have a feeling that I've put too much flux in when I've pre-tinned these, so it's going to bubble and make a full of me, but let's try. Dash MacGyver, hi man, how you going? It didn't bubble. Okay. Tricky bit. Now put a kink on this. Put it on the input terminal. Tighten it down, not too tight. And then sort of balance it up right. And it's gone on about a 35 degree angle. And keep that balanced. Put the hardware on the input jack. I'm trying not to drop that. Oh, here. This will feed the input jack into the foot switch. I'm moving it down so it's away from the battery leads there. I think it's important to make your lead lay before you solder, so rather than soldering and then moving across, I'm going to do it the other way around. I'm just making sure it's not anywhere near the wires to melt. This one, I can only sort of flood that hole, do my best. Brush up flux, I keep readjusting this, try and get that sitting right. That joint just there has gone grey because some, I don't know if you can see that on the battery connector. Can I zoom in? It's become all frosty from the flux for the input, so if I just touch that for a second, it went shiny again. I wonder if I reflow it, I might ruin it now, but oh dear. No, I'm not going to touch it. But anyway, it's not looking grey anymore, so that's good. I'm worried if I reflow it, I might shove up. Alright. So one last wire, and this will be the prep for the wiring on the output jack. A couple of bends. Clean the iron tip. I'm sort of feeding like 70–80% of it on the top and then like sucking the last 20% maybe out through the bottom. And that one's done. Quickly do the same thing with this one. So input jack, 30-ish degrees. Don't crimp it too hard. If you crimp it too hard, it sort of works against itself because it wants to come out again, and then you got nowhere to go from there. Again, I'm trying to balance the enclosure so that wire's not falling over. See what I mean about the nut? The nut for the DC socket really didn't have much room working beside the input jack. Yeah, crimp that down. I don't know if you can see that. Standing back from the fumes. I would run the extractor, just it's noisy. I don't think it's a big deal to make a couple petals, but I am blowing and, you know, making sure I'm not having my face directly over those fumes. Two, all that, I don't like it landing on my eyeballs either. And this is the output. So either true bypass directly from the input, or it will connect back up to the circuit board. Scrape off that black smeggy stuff. And I'm trying to flick out any bits of flux as I'm going from the soldering. Yeah, oh no, crap, I forgot this one. That was meant to go underneath and it didn't. It can go on top, same thing. Because I'm distracted. So again, I've tried to at least push it in the right direction, that it's gonna, I'm not soldering it and then bending it, which would jeopardize the solder joint. And yeah, one's on top, one's underneath. I prefer underneath, but whatever. Okay, again, we are smashing through this. Got these little LED cover things. Actually very nice system, very elegant, very cheap, very functional, just to diffuse the light. Only thing I don't like about them is if you have to pull the circuit board out again to rework on it, that, yeah, it's fine. I mean, you shouldn't be reworking circuit boards very often either. Alright. So yeah, there's a pre-prepped. I did have all the pots, I thought. No, I didn't. I think these need 500 Ka. 100 KB is my little junk prototype section. Got boards and breadboards and stuff I just didn't want to throw out. Might be useful. So I'm just going to take all the hardware off these quickly. And the alpha pots have this sticky resin protecting them, but it's kind of gunky on the hands, which sucks. But I'm glad it's there, you know, it's probably protecting the aluminium from oxidizing. There's this little tab I'm going to rip off, and I'm using really the base of the pliers. And while I'm doing this too, I'll just straighten up the legs. Some of them are knocked around a bit in shipping. These are going Taiwan to USA to Australia, and then back out to wherever in the world I post them to. I should probably put the caps on them too. This circuit I will have to use caps because there's nothing to stop the board from touching the pots. Normally a lot of my circuits have a toggle switch and that spaces it off and sets some spacing, but there's no sort of spacer, so if I just put these caps in, it's all good. But if the circuit doesn't need it, then I don't put these caps in. Just extra plastic. So I put this LED in already. Wires are prepped. This should be easy. I can't remember when I built these boards, so I'm just double checking. I'm holding them up against the light, making sure nothing's missing. Sometimes I was just missing one resistor or something. 100K A for volume, 100K B for tone. It has a big muff style tone control. 500K A for drive. Very much a Marshall sort of drive. Yeah, so that's gonna live like that. I definitely am not going to pre-solder these. I don't like circuit board mounted pots that are pre-soldered unless you've got like everything made on jigs. Oh, these are made on jigs, but like a CNC and they're 100% consistent. Because if you pre-solder that and that just nudges like a fraction of a mil, you're really stressing something out. You're taking the bend in that aluminium or you're taking it on the solder joint. But anyway, I think it's very important to me that they don't get pre-soldered, and I always mention that and why. Putting this hardware in the right way, there's like a dressier side to the nuts. What size is this? 10 mil. I'm just loosely putting this down. I'm not tightening it up. Well, problem is now if you start to tighten this up too much, they're probably going to want to twist. So I'm just incrementally I'm saying that right. It's first thing in the morning, it sounds right. Just notching them up and making sure the board's sort of sitting precisely, like the gaps all matching around the outside, so that's cool. I think what I might do is I'll just solder that and I'll nib it up later. Sometimes I do like to nib them a little more, get as much as you can out. And then sometimes I might just go in, flick the board sideways a bit again, straighten everything up. It's pretty good. Let's do the other one. Last chance to get any little blobs of anything off the board, the enclosure. These are the alpha pots from Small Bear, 6.34 I think, or 6.35 mil shaft, not the 6 mil metric. Just make sure all the slack does come out, because if you find some later after it's soldered, you realize, oh, I'm really pulling against the solder joint up, and yeah, that's when stuff goes wrong. That's why people have problems, and if you avoid that, everything's good. So I'm going to solder this. I'm just sort of trying to balance everything up. It's not perfectly flat because it's sort of sitting on those plastic white caps. I hope you can see. I'm just going to get a couple in to hold the position, kind of. just holding it there for a moment because I want some of the solder to go through both sides. And that hole is pretty big, so that the pot can be desoldered if it needs to. And to let a little bit of solder go through each side. So it's sort of serviceable. Even if you had to replace these pots in the future and you couldn't get a PCB mount one, or you trashed it for some reason desoldering it, you could just get a regular pot, put some legs on it, put some wires on it, tack it on. Man, and this should assemble really quickly. Now, once I do that, I like to not forget, tighten them up the rest of the way. And let's just keep going. This is the positive supply. It comes off the DC socket because the DC socket will switch it to come from either the battery connector or the actual DC plug, if there's one inside. I'm trying not to mess with these wires too much. Where they land first up should hopefully be close to their final spot. Now this is taking the earth to the circuit board, and this wire here will connect the negative up to the earth only when a plug is inserted into the input jack. A mono plug, has to be mono. Someone contacted me a while back. It wasn't working properly because they were using a stereo plug. That's bubbling because I used too much flux when I pre-tinned this wire. I pre-prepped these this week. I'm hoping that should just about sit there. Maybe you can't see what I'm doing. It's come out. Crap. Oh good. That's why I got calluses and stuff. I just stick my finger into hot. Okay, this is input to the circuit board, or send as I might call it. Return in the middle. And this one carries switched earth, which is just going to use the LED. Using negative to switch the LED. And the last one, I think, will be this LED. Careful doing this. The amount of times I've slipped and stabbed into my thumb. Anyway, I'm sort of recalling it now. I find the solder joints a lot neat. Uh-oh, that's a problem. Saying I find the solder joints neater when I've pre-cut. The leads. I'm trying to push it as flush as I can because otherwise it's going to have a bit of slack, which isn't a really good sign of quality. So I'm holding it with one finger. Oh, I'll do. I'll even cut off the excess. It's too much. Those little cuttings, I made sure they went, like I tried to account for two things. I know I cut two things, so two things should come out. Otherwise, there are things floating around underneath. Bits of metal floating underneath pots can actually short them out. and be very tricky to debug. And that's all the soldering done for this one. Soldering, wherever you are in the world. Potato. Yeah. Alright, I'll just do the other one quickly. 9 volt. Positive. I'll just tuck it against the chassis. Earth. Which will connect up to the casing here via the input jack. And this will connect the negative to the earth. And by that I mean the black wire from the battery connector and the negative from the DC socket. Power supply negative. And this is tricky, this one. Fiddly, annoying, all of the above. I'm trying to get it in its final spot roughly. It wants to pop out the side. If it pops out too far, there's not enough room for the battery. It's pretty tight. Yes! Didn't screw up on me while people are watching. Huh. I am really distracted. Normally I'd solder the pots in first. Just seeing I didn't do that. So the board's sort of floating around a bit at the moment. That's alright. It's a hold-in spot. So it's the LED. Push that in a bit more. The circuit board return to go to the output jack, and the circuit board send, the input. I'll balance this all up a bit. Yeah, I mean, hopefully there's enough room for these big 100 nano caps to not hit the ceiling. They're crazy. Oh, I just moved it, so it's not a huge deal, just I'm going to hold it with my fingers. Just going to get one done. Now, if the solder wasn't moving down just as I soldered that, because I was trying to solder the top, you really got to get, it's just difficult to access sometimes, but into the joint, heat the joint up where you want the solder to go. Don't just try and paste it on like it's glue. I'm not trying to be too quick, like I said, but also I'm definitely not trying to be too long. It is very easy to damage a pot when you're a beginner. Yeah, heat damage to pots, I'm always suspicious. I remember I screwed up a lot, but not anymore. If you're reasonable at soldering, it shouldn't happen. Again, I'm just trying to flick out any bits of flux and that I can as I go. Because I don't really spend a lot of time. When it's finished, I just look at it for a second and like, yeah, I can't see anything, it's finished. Because I am trying to catch it all as I go. And I think that's a much better safety than checking it. Wow, that's nearly it. And finally, just that LED. Trying to feed it into some plastic. There we go, and don't stab yourself. And also, make sure the polarity is right. Okay, that one's not moving, so I'm happy I'll just solder it from the top. Much better than the previous one. Nice. And that's all my iron done. So I'll turn the soldering iron off. Oh, you know what? I just realized this middle one doesn't look very pretty. Just gonna move it up. There we go. It was sort of sitting down a bit. Yeah. So they're done. I was going to put the knobs on, which is not very interesting, but over to my messy section over here. Where I've just got everything scattered everywhere. I had all these trays, but like once the trays fill up, they just go everywhere. I need more trays. If I need more trays, I need more shelves. Or I just need better, you know, management skills, keeping my place tidy. Yeah, this is my candid mess of everything that goes down here. I'm trying to get ready for hiking, so there's like backpacks and stuff lying around. Thanks for watching, guys. You probably don't want to see me screw knobs down. This one actually has a little indicator, so it makes it easier to get the rotation right, because this isn't a D shaft, it's a round shaft. But those indicators are a pain, because if you get them not aligned to the print to match the drills, then it's a show that quality's not up to scratch. So I think I'm going to sign off. Might stick this video up on YouTube. Yeah, so what was that, like 40 minutes? Thanks again, everyone, and I'll catch you next time.